Hi there, thanks for joining me. I have a flip through today of a really pretty little journal I just completed. It was an unexpected journal. I started it a while back and I put it away in such a good spot I forgot about it. So I just recently finished it and I'm ever glad I did. What a pleasure it was to make this beautiful little book. And it just became just a springtime pleasure for my soul as our snow was melting and the grass was starting to turn green and flowers were starting to come up through the soil. This little book was just a pleasure to create. So I'm going to open it up and I'll tell you a bit about it. It is it's pre-1882. Let me tell you that. It's a very old book. It's at least 142 years old, 148. I can't do the math. I know that it's pre-1882 because the publishing company that made this book changed its name in 1882. It took on another partner and changed its name. So I'll show you that when we get inside. Anyhow, it was pretty grimy looking. We'll get to this in a bit. It's obviously it's pretty grimy looking because it's over 140 years old. But I like that. I love when a book shows the character that it has earned through the years. So if you're like me, that just adds to how beautiful a journal can become. I love the colors. You're going to notice a theme throughout the book of shades of green and shades of lilac, lavender, plum sort of colors, and it's all come through to this. This is held with some faded seam binding. I think it must have been lavender at one point, but now it's sort of a pale grayish lavender, and I really love that. And I've just tied that around here. It kind of looks pretty. It holds it together if it gets too much of a gator mouth for you. Or else, if you love this seam binding as much as I do, it's just the perfect amount of wrinkles. You can use it when you're making more tags and things inside. Just use it as part of your supplies. So here we go. The cover was just so pretty. It's got hops on it. The hops are one of the ingredients in beer, the main ingredient. And they're sort of a dusty plum color with that beautiful green. Its title is Near to Nature's Heart. It was the kind of book that was given away often as, Sunday school awards for attendance or scripture readings or mastery or memorization. I wanted to have a little bit of fun doing a little bit of shabby chiking on the cover, but I really didn't want to take over how pretty this is. So I've sewn on some, it's either vintage or it's antique lace, and this is the last amount of it I have. So Near to Nature's Heart got the last of this beautiful lace. And there's one row of it on the inside, and I'm completely out of it after that. I wanted something pretty on the spine because the spine was very grimy. And as grimy as this looks, I have cleaned it as best I can. This is just all permanent staining, but I like that. That sort of thing gives a book character and it just makes me love it more. Hopefully you're the same way. But for the spine, it was definitely even a different color from the front and back covers. So I just ran some lace down it and I added a little bit of lilac ribbon there, and I really like how that turned out. So let's take a look inside. So in here, I love how this turned out. This is the original first page. And what I've done is the ex libris here is what was the original end papers for this book. And this was in the book, but I had to take it out in order to get the text block out. So I fussy cut some of the leaves out and some of the hops, and I glued it back in. I arranged it and collaged it and glued it back in onto the end papers. I really love how that turned out. So we were sort of able to save it and repurpose it. And then I fussy cut another little bird like here on the end paper and have him sitting on a little branch, and I really love how that turned out. And here's how you can tell where it says Ward, Lock and Company. In 1882, Ward and Lock took on another partner by the last name of Bowden. So in 1882 it became Ward, Lock and Bowden. So that's how we know that this book, it was either published in 1882 prior to taking on Bowden, or it was before that. The paper was still in quite nice condition. You can see it's got a really nice patina. So in order to help the new owner remember, I just put in here, down here, it says pre-1882, because that's the closest I could come to finding out what the publication date was. Now I made some pockets from the offcuts of the end papers and put them here and there. I left them quite plain so that you can do what you would like with them. And I've just tucked in some pretty things. This is actually a vintage postcard. That's the real deal there. And I just thought it reminded me of, it's sort of a theme of a gentle spring garden. And I just love these little flowers and the garden in the background. So I tucked that in there for you. And again, some antique lace here and the lavender ribbon that I've sewn along the edge. I've left all the threads long, as I am off to do. If you don't like that, trim them off. It's very easy. They've all been knotted, so you can just trim them very close and they'll be gone. Lots of room for you to journal in. There's even leftover pieces from my last year's bullet journal. Some old end papers from another book. A little bit of Edith Holden. You can't have a garden spring type book without Edith Holden in it. This is some an envelope and stationery that I have, so I've just included that in. But what I did was I opened up the envelope, sewed it right into the signature, and then glued it shut again. So it's actually a part of the book. And then I figured it's an envelope, so I did a little collaging there, and there we have the green and purple theme again. And this came from Happy Mail, which reminds me, if you spot some Happy Mail you sent me in this book, thank you very much. And you'll all know who you are, because I'm a very lucky person with the Happy Mail that gets sent my way. It also reminds me to let you know everything in this book, except for this bulldog clip, it all comes from repurposed sources. So it comes from thrift stores, charity shops, estate sales, Happy Mail, Blue Box, yard sales, and everything. The laces, the papers, the book pages. So the books that the book pages came out of, you name it, it's all from repurposed sources. So I just put a little whale tail tab here, and I put a word snippet on it. It says flowers. It's just random. There's no reason for it to be there. I left this side blank so you can put whatever you like on it. This is a scan I took of a piece of Petit Point crochet that I have. So I scanned it, and then I fussy cut it out, and I even fussy cut all the holes. You can see there that I took the time with my X-Acto knife and cut all those holes out. Here's something that is new, but it was new to me in a way. I used a lot of these pretty stickers that I received. Thank you to Your Creative Studio who sent me that this month. And I had fun with those in here. A little Rolodex card. I had fun doing some of the tangles here that I learned how to do from Shinuki Art. Again, another sticker from Your Creative Studio. And that flips out there to give you more room. Some stationery. I made a little whale tail tab from an offcut from the end papers. A little butterfly there. And wherever possible, I put some of the original papers back in. Tea-dyed paper I did myself. And again, here we have some lavender lace. And I created it by cutting a big chunk of lace that I have. Let me show you. I had this big wide lace, and the ends were pretty, but I didn't need it to be that big, so I cut it off. So that edge was raw, and I didn't want to see the raw edge, so I sewed on some ribbon to hide that raw edge, and I like how that turned out. This is from Janet Marsh's botanical book of her artwork. And there's lots of room for journaling. It just worked out nicely, the pages that I chose. Again, a folio from out of the original text block. This is tea-dyed from out of an address book that I found one day at one of my thrift shops with some irises on it. There are 128 pages of varying sizes in here. This is loose because I was using the clip. I had the clip here like this, but then I realized that I needed to clip together all these little leftover goodies that I ended up not using. So these will all be going to the new owner as well. So that's why that's loose. I'll still leave it there anyways, and this clip is holding all those little pieces, all those little odds and ends that will be going with this journal to its new home. A little bit of fussy cutting with a thistle. You can't have a lavender and green theme and not have thistle in it, I don't think. And a little green butterfly that's on both sides and sticking out like a little tab. And that's inspired by Nick the Booksmith. A page from out of a gardener's notebook, and I tea-dyed that. The last bit of that beautiful lace that's on the front and back of the cover. I've really enjoyed using this lace. This is out of a book of birds that I recently found. Just beautiful, delicate little pictures of birds. In the center here is another vintage card. It looks rather 70s-ish to me. And I just put that in the center, and I did it with the same technique. I opened up the seams on the envelope, sewed it in when I sewed the signature, and then I glued the envelope shut again. On this side, again, because it's an envelope, I took a little artistic liberty because the stamp is in the wrong direction. But again, we've got the purple and green theme here with a little stamp from Mauritius and some nice lavender colored flowers. A little Rolodex card is tucked in there just to show you that that's a tuck spot. Another tuck spot here with sort of a fussy ripped flower here. And then I just tucked in, again, lavender and green theme here. And this is a bridge tally card. So I just tucked that there. And you can have fun maybe turning that into a journaling spot. Here is the only illustration that was in the book. So I wanted to be able to continue to use it. So I put it onto cardstock, and then I turned it into a little tuck spot. And then I used another little piece of the end paper offcuts here, and then I had a little fun collaging down here with some washi tape and a fussy cut and a butterfly and a little stamp of a oh, it's slipping my mind now, a label, Tim Holtz stamp. And I've even done a little detail work of putting some little green brads on the corners that are showing. Again, another whale tail tab here. I like how these two little birds are sort of talking to each other, and it's like she's wandering through a field of wildflowers. Another tip out here. The other side of the gardener's notebook. Again, just tons of room for you. The fabric that I used to sew my text block together is a really pretty little piece of fabric that I got in Happy Mail. And it's got shades, strong shades of greens and purples. So it was the perfect fabric to use. Again, another piece from the Janet Marsh Nature Notebook. And again, it just worked out serendipitously. There's just tons of room to journal on that page. A little stamp from Your Creative Studio gift box that I received from them. And it was purple, so it had to go in. These are more pieces of stationery, just random stationery that I thought looked pretty. I like when pages are all different sizes. Janet Marsh again, and a little bit of punching along the edges, just for a little detail. And again, this space can all be used for a journal entry, just for a little thought, maybe your favorite quote. Again, more of the lavender lace right there with the ribbon, satin ribbon covering up the raw edge that would have been under there. This is a page out of a birthday book that I had with Beatrix Potter artwork in it, and I tea-dyed it, and I just love how this one turned out. This is actually my favorite folio out of a Beatrix Potter book, and I'll show you why at the end. I've been saving it for the right book, and this was the right book. Some more stationery. Lavender, had to use it. A little whale tail tab. It just says beauty, and a little lavender bow glued on top. No real rhyme or reason for those things. It's just pretty, and it made me happy. I used a little ink, alcohol ink, to stain some cellophane tape so that it looks old, to also fortify those folds, and I like how that turned out. This is out of a 1941 gardening book. I've written it down there so you can remember if you're interested. And it's just an illustration on how to pot plants. Here's a tuck spot that I did with this ticket. Again, it was sort of a dusty plum with green, so it was the perfect one to use. And a little blank Rolodex card for you to do with as you wish. Some more of that cellophane tape, and I covered this side with a little label, and it's in purples and greens again. Here again, I've used a little butterfly as a tab that sticks out. These are vintage Green Shield stamps here, and just little detail work for down in the corner. And on this side, there's a faux stamp from Your Creative Studio, and again, the other side of that butterfly. It's such a fun thing to do, because if you've got an illustration of a butterfly, you can just snip it in half, and you glue one side on and one on the other side, and it makes a really cute looking tab. And it makes the profile of your book just look so cute. Like, this just looks like a wild garden when I look at all that. It just, to me, that just sings of a spring garden just starting to bloom. Some more fussy cuts here and a bit of washi tape to hold it down to give it a little anchor to the page. On this side, I've put another pocket that I used with leftover end papers. Let me move, I'm a little off here. There we go. With the end papers. I had a little fun with this. This is a page out of a book. I believe it's called The Seasons. So I just felt I was in the mood to make a pocket. So I made a pocket, and then I thought, well, what do I put in the pocket? So I put in a Two Nanas bookmark. So that's in there. You can put it wherever you like. As you know, I always tuck a Two Nanas bookmark somewhere in my journals. I'm going to hold on to this and I'll explain to you why this is there. You're probably thinking, a whale tail tab? Why is that there? Lots of sewing in this book, as ever. This end page has green on it. So the front one has lavender, this one has green. And again, some more of that really old pretty lace there. And here's the other, oh, there was a little leftover fussy cutting, so I just put it there for a little detail, for a little continuity. And then this side, oh, I've been saving this for the right book, and this is the right book. Look at that illustration from Beatrix Potter. That's her little character, field mouse named Timmy Willie. How sweet is that? He's so full of peas that he fell asleep in a leaf. I love it. And I don't know why the tea did this, but it's gorgeous. I wish I knew what I did to get it to do that, because I'd do it again. On the back page, I had to think quick, because I actually had to take this text block out and put it back in again while I was making this journal. And it meant that I lost the original end paper that I had put in here. And it was the last piece I had. But I had 2 offcuts, and I was able to make a new end paper simply by putting a pocket to make it wider. So this pocket you can use for whatever you like in it. And you can't have a pocket and not put something in it. So I made a little faux cabinet type card. This is actually from a photo that was in a book. And what I did was, this was the original dedication in the front of this book. It says, "To dear Rita, with best wishes for Christmas from your friend Louise Boulter." And I do believe I found Louise. Whenever possible, if there's an owner's name written inside a book, because of the small community I live in, quite often online I can find the person, especially if their name is unusual. And I do believe if the Louise Boulter is the one from our area, there was only one that I have found in my research. So I do think I found her, but I only found a date of birth and a marriage. She married a man named Boulter. Her maiden name was actually Merritt. Anyhow, I wanted to include that, so I imagined that maybe this was her favorite book, or maybe this was a book she made, and she wanted to gift this book to her friend Rita, so she sent along a photo of herself, where she's living now, and sent this to her friend Rita for Christmas, and tucked that into the book for her friend. Now, which brings me to why I have this here, because I originally thought that I might put it on this photo, and that way you could pull the photo in and out using the whale tail tab. But then I just really liked the way that looked as is. So I thought, you know what I'll do? I'm going to just include that. So I'm going to put it back into this pocket. And if the new owner wants that on here, it's very easy to glue it on yourself. And that can be your choice. Or if you're like me and you like that, then you can use that whale tail tab somewhere else on something else that you're going to make to put into this book. So that is Near to Nature's Heart. As I mentioned, I had leftovers, so I'm going to send them along with it. There's a tiny little piece of the fabric left that I used to sew the text block to. There's a tiny little bit of the lavender lace, last little piece of that lace, and then there's some pages for you to have some fun with here, and a little bit left over from the fussy cutting I did to create that ex libris. So I'm including that too. You just never know what you might like to do with this book. So that will all go along with Near to Nature's Heart. So there we go. Thank you for joining me today for this flip through. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be listing this book in my Etsy shop probably within the hour or so from this appearing on my channel. A good way to find out when it's going to be available in my shop is to either favorite my shop and Etsy can notify you, or probably a better way is to follow along on my Instagram account, because I always will put a little notification when it goes up. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.